Hi, guys. Welcome to this week's episode of The Girl Speaks. And I'm so excited for you to be joining me for today's conversation. As we are kicking off Women's Month, I am so excited to talk about a topic that's been kind of, it's very special to me because I'm very intentional about relationships, not just romantic ones, but also, investing in sisterhood. That is something that is very big for me. It is something that has carried me through some of the hardest times in my life. And so, kicking off Women's Month with, diving into this subject. And why is because every conversation I have, I always just, encounter people who are like, man, like, I wish I had a solid group of girlfriends, or you do have the people who do, but then there's also this struggle, especially when you're in a new place, trying to make new connections and make genuine friendships, and so many things. There's so many different topics surrounding friendships. And I think in the next few episodes to come, I'm actually going to bring on some amazing ladies to dive deeper into this topic of sisterhood and what that actually means. But today, we're just going to talk about some of the experiences I've had. What are the things I've learned over the years in fostering and maintaining friendships, making new ones, all of those things, the good, the bad, the ugly, the hurts, everything. If you know, there's nothing that hurts more than a friendship breakup. Let the church say amen. But yeah, so I have been very blessed. So, kind of some history. I moved from Nigeria to the States. And so obviously during that move, it happened at a very core time of my, young life. And so moving away from all my childhood best friends, we had a trio, all of these things going on, and kind of being moved away from that environment into not just a new one, but one that was not so welcoming. It was not easy making that transition and kind of meeting people who were very mean to me and bullied me. And then there were some people who happened to be nice to me, but with, benefit to their advantage. So in a way, it was still, just not the best friendship. But I was grateful to have had one person who, shout out to Symphony, but who really stuck up for me, and someone who actually built up my self-confidence while other people were constantly tearing me down. She was one of those voices who were always there, who would always rally behind me. And I was so grateful for that because that truly was the beginning. Because, obviously, if you have siblings, you have your sisters, but then everyone knows also, even with relationships like that, you cultivate a whole new level of friendship with your siblings when you grow into being an adult, right? And so at that age, with having someone outside of my home, that was my very first lesson and understanding of what true sisterhood means. Being able to go through the good, the bad, the ugly, having someone who actually becomes family to you was very special to have. And I'm grateful to still have her in my life till today. But along the way, obviously, going through college, you kind of go through that self-defining moment. A lot of times as well, that's where people come to faith in terms of knowing and choosing to walk a certain path. It is at that college kind of phase that, you kind of have all those transitions happen. And so for me, graduating from high school, I just kind of realized that there were certain behaviors, there were certain patterns, there were certain things that just weren't me. And I was only engaging in those things because of the friends I had. So, like smoking weed, and just overindulgence in other things. Like the environment just was not like conducive for the kind of woman that I wanted to become. And so obviously something had to change. And I was like, God, like, I need you to bring me, genuine friends. And thankfully I had some people already in my life. So investing more in those relationships. And college is such a weird place because it's one of those places where you find for lifer relationships, but then also you find that there are friendships that come or are birthed out of convenience. Because we're in the same place together, we're kind of forced to be on the same path. We kind of connect here and there, and then you find that some of those relationships are just there and they kind of wither out into being acquaintances, post college life, whatever the case is. But going through this very moment defining transition of like, okay, this is the kind of woman I want to be. This is who I kind of want to surround myself with. My faith is very important to me, so I need to be intentional about surrounding myself with like-minded women, like-minded people, even my guy friends as well. And so going through that process, I definitely had some friendship hardships in college, and one being just like with a longtime friend of mine. There were a lot of underlying things, which as I go further into this podcast, it'll kind of come up. But there were a lot of underlying things, and we would just kind of see them manifest. And so there was kind of a back and forth of like, we've been friends for so long, but then also like there are these hiccups and there are these rifts to the point where we actually stopped being friends. And I was like, I can't do this. And I was such a people pleaser. I am so thankful to God that I broke that pattern, but I always found it hard to say no to people. I never really could stand my ground, and people would blatantly just walk all over me. And I would just be like, oh, I see the good in them. No, like, they won't do it again. And as a result, I definitely was hurt a lot by things. But on the other side, I saw myself grow in learning learning boundaries in friendships. And really, I think the heart of where we're going to go today is knowing who in your life actually values you and making sure that you're investing energy where it is being reciprocated. I have had one too many lessons of overestimating people's places in my life, and it has not been the best. And so, through all of this, right, I had to learn this through a friendship breakup, which was really, 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 really tough because we had been in each other's lives for all of our lives, like quite literally all of our lives. And it got to the point where I was like, man, like I don't really feel like you're there for me. And I feel like I put so much energy and put so much of myself into this, yet I don't feel like I return any like I'm returned any of that favor. But not even that. I see how you invest in other relationships, and I just feel like maybe because I've been here all this while, like it is what it is. And so it was very tough. I remember crying through it because I was like, God, like, this is like who I saw as my maid of honor. And I had to be realistic with myself. And I realized that I saw the red flags and I saw the things that hurt me time and time again. But I was so caught up in we've been friends for so long, so it has to work, which is so funny because you hear people say this about like, not saying that I was in an abusive relationship, okay? But you hear people talk about like the other side when they're actually dating someone, and there's so many red flags, and their apologies, and then you forgive and you take back, or you see them blatantly like disrespect you, and then you're just like, it's okay, I forgive, and over again. And it's like you're just so sucked in, like you want to hold on to the reality that once was. And the unfortunate thing is that that just is not how it works. And it's okay when those things happen. I had to tell myself it's okay if this friendship that you thought would look this way is not panning out how you thought it would. It hurts, but don't hurt yourself even further trying to make something a reality when it's clearly not. And so going through that, I dealt with a lot of offense, and I found that I became very guarded. And I'm such an open person, and I'm so like, yeah, I'm just so open. And it was funny because one of my friends that I met in the season of going through this, I would always say, I'm like, yeah, like I'm open. And it wasn't until one day we were having like a one-on-one, and I say friend, but she's really, I could say that she's a second mom. She's a spiritual leader in my life, and I love her to death. But we're having this coffee chat. And I think in that moment, that's where some of the hurts that I had been dealing with started to come out. And I was like, I didn't even realize. And so I'm looking at her and she's like, yeah, you keep saying you're open, but all I see is a wall. And I was just like, oh my God. And I remember going home that day and I actually just sat and cried in my car. I cried so hard because I was like, God, like, I need core like there was a need, there was a hole, there was a void, and it was very painful. And sometimes we want to act like we tough it out. There's the whole like blocked culture, whatever the case is. And yeah, sure, but let's be honest, you're hurt. And it's okay to be hurt. And if you're somebody who is going through a friendship breakup, I'm so sorry. And just know that there's healing on the other side of that. Know that your feelings are valid. And I pray that you would be surrounded with people who comfort you through that. But yeah, and so walking through that and dealing with my offense, I actually went through forgiving this person and then having a situation that happened that kind of was like a slap in my face. And it felt like the, reparation, I don't know if that's the word, but the bridging the gap conversation that we had, it felt like the whole thing was a lie and like there wasn't really truth spoken in that conversation. So, breakup part 2 again. And it was so, so hard. And I was like, God, like, why do I keep overestimating and over trusting? Like, is it me? Like, I'm the problem. Like, I actually told God, I was like, God, I want my heart to be hard. I don't want to keep getting hurt. So I want to be protected. And the Lord really had to walk me through that because the nature of being so loving and being so giving and being so gracious, it's from Him. And so I can't pray that away. And if I were to try to, do the whole like blocked, I'm this, I'm that, like, girl, who, like, stop fronting. Let's be so for real. And so going through that, I, went like over a year where we didn't talk. And then she reached back out like randomly and I was not having it. And I was like, absolutely not. Not again. Like, call me a fool twice, but you ain't gonna call me a fool 3 times. Okay. I was like, no, like the door is not open. I don't want to have a conversation. There's nothing to be talked about. You've clearly shown me where you stand in my life. We're good. And just like the good Lord does, He convicts. And I remember we were dating at the time, but I remember talking to my now husband, and I was like, why is she texting me? Like, there's nothing to be said. And I don't want, and I kid you not, this man looked at me, mind you, he had all the context. He had carried me through my tears, he had been there. And so he knew, like, I was in the right, per se. And he looks at me and tells me, get over yourself. Like, this is pride and you need to get over it. When I tell you guys, I was shocked. I was like, why are you not on my side right now? But when you ask God for a God fearing man who will lead you in spirit and in truth in the word of God, this is what you get. And so he literally was like, don't talk to me until you figure that out. Like, no, we're not doing this and I'm not about to encourage it. And I had to be so honest with myself. I was so angry. And a part of that pride came from a place of not wanting to feel stupid. Because oftentimes through the process, a lot of people would say to me, oh, like they saw the red flags. It felt like everyone else around me saw the red flags, but like I saw them, but I chose to be blind to it. But I would often have people say like, dude, like, you're clearly not valued in this friendship. But I'm like, no, like, you don't get it. And so I was prideful and my heart was hard towards forgiving again because I was like, I don't want to be called stupid. I don't want to be, no, like, not again. And the Lord so graciously reminded me, this is how I am with you. Every time you do something that's like a slap in my face, every time you ever took my grace for granted, every time you came to me saying, God, I'm turning a new leaf. It's me and you. We're walking this journey together. And then you went back and did the very thing that you asked me that if I met you and you wouldn't do again. Yeah, this is what I deal with you on a daily. So the same grace I extend to you, you need to extend to them. And it was a humbling moment because it once again just reiterated like, and man, God, I treat you this way. I'm so sorry. But then also it was like, here's a taste of your own medicine. And the Lord just reminded me that when he calls us to walk this journey with him, it is understanding the sacrificial and almost stupid grace that's given to us, that's undeserving, but yet he extends himself to us open armed. And I was just like, oh my God. And so at the time I was out of the country and I came back, and I think that's when I like responded and I was like, hey, like, I'm open to talk. And I remember calling a mutual friend and I was venting because I was so upset. I was like, I know what I feel in my heart. And what I feel in my heart is genuine love. Like, I actually felt God's compassionate love towards this person. And there was nothing they had done to deserve it. But all I wanted to do was hug them and pour my love on them. And I felt so stupid. And I called my friend and I was like, if I'm being honest, I know I want to be hard, but like this is what I feel in my heart and my spirit will not let me shake it off. And she was like, it's okay. Like, God is teaching you and showing you something, and don't fight it. And so, I walked through, but also, right, I think it's important to note that there's wisdom in extending grace and compassion. So you can do that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that person gets automatic access back into your life. It doesn't mean that we just jump past all the hurt and all the things that happened as though it never did. And so, yes, there was forgiveness and, extended, but that didn't mean that, we were just back to where we were, or that there even was a desire to, right? And so that, was time walking through that. And I'm gonna skip because I don't want this to be too long. And maybe I will bring her on this month actually to talk through sisterhood and friendship. But we are reconciliated and we are still in the process of, redefining and relearning a friendship that we've literally like we were dedicated together. Like that's how way back we go, babies together. And so being in this new phase of life and figuring out our friendship in a new way together, um, it's oh crap, I lost my train of thought. Oh man. As I was saying with, forgiveness doesn't always mean that you just take things back to where they were. And so this situation was something that really taught me that. And even in the process, still, it's just a relearning and understanding and a new perspective that I got about God's grace. But then also, on the other hand, I realized that I went through another similar-ish situation, probably maybe even like my worst nightmare, where there was someone I saw and had at this pedestal in my life. And unfortunately, through one of the most important seasons of my life, I realized that this person was not my friend. And it was a very, very hard and tough realization because once again, I think this one was like it felt like everyone else could see what I couldn't see. And I was like so focused on like how I perceived this person. And it was embarrassing. I felt stupid. I felt like I had you put someone on a pedestal only to realize that you almost basically mean nothing to them. And there were I don't know if I want to get too much in the details. But I pretty much found out like through the process of my wedding. And I was like, wow, this person doesn't care about me. And it goes back to that thing, a person will show you their patterns and their behaviors. And when you see those things as you're seeking and trying to build sisterhood and friendship, don't just look at it from the lens of how you perceive a person, but also be checking for the actions of how you're treated, especially if you're a person like me who is so giving. But then also even like pay attention to comments that are made, what subtle jabs or certain jokes that are made that are like kind of backhanded. Like pay attention to those things and address them. That's something that I regret not doing, was not addressing those things, but also I felt in my heart actually a question if this person really, like if we were where I thought that we were. And I should have went with my gut feeling and I didn't. But it's okay because it probably taught me more and showed me more that I needed to see. And so as sucky as it was, I'm glad in a way that it happened. And it makes me think about that video of just there was a girl who talked about knowing how to categorize friendships and knowing that there are tiers to it. And I can say with confidence that my inner circle girls are my girls through and through, and there is nothing nobody could say about that. And then, you have your outer circle friends who are kind of like, mutuals, other extensions, college friends. And then you have the outer circle who are just people like, hey, hi, bye, cool, cool, cool. But at the end of the day, the people in your core circle are where you find true sisterhood. But not only that, they're your safe space. They are people who in their actions, and I always say look at the two-way street of the relationship, right? So never be that person who's looking at a friendship from the lens of what you're getting, because you know it's easy to I fell victim of this where I've been like, yeah, like I know I'm a good friend. And to the point where I wasn't actually taking stock of how some things were going. And I'm grateful to say that I have girlfriends who could call me out and have this conversation in love. And it was emotional because I realized, oh my God, you felt neglected. And that was not my intention. Adulting is hard. There are things that happen. People are going through things. But you invest time and you're intentional about the things that matter to you. And friendships are one of those things. And I'm grateful that we had that where we could just talk about it instead of going behind and saying, oh, well, this and lamenting and, dragging it on. We could come forth to each other. That to me is true sisterhood. Being able to walk through the hardships and accept that you don't have it all together. And so looking at that as well and making sure that you're being intentional, and there's so much more that's on my mind, but now I've realized that I want to bring in some more girlfriends to talk about this. I'm not going to go too much into it so that way I can save some of the content for the next few episodes, but um I guess this is just me sharing a glimpse of, the downsides and the hurts that come with trying to grow in sisterhood, but also seeing that there's redemptive power in some relationships, and some just don't need to be redeemed. Forgiveness can be given and it could be that. But I'm excited to, I guess, over the next few weeks walk through this definition of sisterhood and bringing in people to share their experiences, their stories. And my hope is that you would learn and grow from it, and that it would maybe encourage you to any situations that you may be having. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this chat for today. And I'm so excited. I'm about to go text all of them right now and get them rostered so that you guys can enjoy the sweet conversations. But yeah, love you guys as always. Thank you for spending some time with me here at the Girl Speaks podcast. And be sure to follow us on Instagram. Be sure to share this platform with a friend. And I look forward to chatting with you later on. Bye.